The time is 6:30 and I'd like to call this meeting to order. I am Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey,
Here.
Mayor Mahoney, Trustee Westcott,
Here.
Trustee Bristow. Present. Trustee Cohen,
Here.
Trustee White,
Here.
Trustee Tapey.
Here. I would like to, at this time, request a motion for approval of the agenda due to some corrections needed on the April 4th minutes. I would appreciate that motion adjusting and removing the April 4th minutes from our consent agenda tonight. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of the May 4th minutes from the consent agenda.
So the hope is that our agenda can be adjusted before we approve it so that the April 4th minutes are just not on there anymore. They're not under the consent agenda. They're not on the agenda. That allows us to adjust those minutes and bring them back for approval at our May meeting.
Okay. So I move to approve the agenda with the removal of the April 4th minutes off of the consent agenda.
There's a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cohen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey,
Yes.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Trustee Tapey. Yes. Trustee Bristow,
Yes.
Trustee White,
Yes.
Thank you. If that's as tricky as things get tonight, we'll be doing well. At this time, I would like to welcome a guest to the podium for some discussion around our proclamations this evening.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and the Board of Trustees. My name is Kim Messina. I'm the Victim Services Manager for the Brighton Office for Victim Assistance. And I just wanted to come here this evening. I know that you have not read the proclamation yet, but you will soon, about Sex Assault Awareness Month, as well as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. The Brighton Office of Victim Assistance has been in your community for a short while, and we feel really privileged and honored to be able to do the work here. We have been greeted with such appreciation and gratitude, and it's truly our privilege. These two proclamations really speak to victims of crime, and oftentimes that they don't have a voice. And so we appreciate you bringing attention to both of these movements, as well as appreciating victim services. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks.
At this time, I would like to make a proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas every day, women, men, and children across Colorado suffer the pain and trauma of rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment. And whereas this crime occurs far too frequently, goes unreported far too often, and leaves long-lasting psychological, physical, and emotional scars. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment impact citizens in Lochbuie, regardless of age, race, or gender. And whereas the Lochbuie Police Department is committed to offering reporting options to victims of sexual assault while responding to sexual violence with a victim-centered, offender-focused approach. And whereas the town of Lochbuie affirms their commitment to supporting victims and bringing perpetrators to justice, bringing with it a higher level of investigation and response to victims in our community. And whereas during National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we recommit ourselves not only to lifting the veil of secrecy and shame surrounding sexual violence, but also to raising awareness, expanding support for victims, and strengthening our response. And whereas the town of Lochbuie acknowledges the National Sexual Assault Awareness Month theme of prevention demands equity and calls on all individuals, communities, organizations, and institutions to improve ourselves and the systems surrounding us to build racial equity and respect. And whereas we share the responsibility for supporting victims by believing friends, family, and coworkers when it does occur, and bringing perpetrators to justice, whatever justice means to those who are victimized. And whereas at the local level, we must work together to educate the Lochbuie community about sexual violence prevention, supporting survivors, and speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions. And whereas prevention is possible when the entire Lochbuie community is involved, the first step is increasing awareness through education and supporting victims. It's time for all of us to take action to prevent sexual violence. And now, therefore, I, Jamie Jeffrey, Mayor Pro Tem of Lochbuie, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the town of Lochbuie. A signed proclamation. And now I'd like to read a proclamation around National Crime Victims' Rights. Whereas the victims' rights movement has resulted in the passage of laws at the local, state, and federal levels that established essential rights for victims. Whereas crime victims' rights acts passed here in Colorado and at the federal level have provided victims with ways to participate meaningfully throughout the criminal justice process. Whereas the rights of crime victims are best protected when all participants in the criminal justice process, not only victims, are appropriately educated about victims' rights. Whereas supporting victims of crime is crucial to the U.S. justice system because our support honors the experiences of victims and allows them to find autonomy and empowerment through achieving self-defined goals. Whereas we must help victims access the justice, assistance, and support they need to rebuild their lives. Whereas advocacy by and for victims of crime is itself a form of seeking justice, no less than justice sought in the courts. Whereas the accomplishments of the victims' rights movement achieved through compassion and collaboration and built on the courageous advocacy of individual victims and their families across the country, inspire in us hope for future progress and greater healing. Whereas we are determined to respond to crime and violence by helping victims find not only support, recovery, and justice, but also a sense of hope for their future. Whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that accessible, appropriate, and trauma-informed services are offered to all victims of crime. And whereas the town of Lochbuie is hereby dedicated to strengthening victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities and our victim service providers, and bringing hope and healing to all victims and survivors. Now, therefore, I, Jamie Jeffrey, Mayor Pro Tem of Lochbuie, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim the week of April 23rd to 29th, 2023 as Crime Victims' Rights Week, reaffirming the town of Lochbuie's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year, and expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so that they may find relevant assistance support, justice, and peace. Were you wanting a photo? At this time in our agenda, we will allow for public comment. I received 2 slips tonight. Larry Strock. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please, sir, and good to see you.
Okay, 840 Lone Wolf Circle, Loch Buoy. I'm kind of speechless after those proclamations, so maybe I shouldn't be up here, but anyway, so I hear a lot of things lately about spending money for a library and maybe a satellite library and stuff, and it's a lot of money. I think if we really think about it, you know, any kind of library is easily 4 years away from now, any big building. I've looked at rec centers. I went over to Thornton a couple of weeks ago and looked at their new rec center. And it's fabulous, you know, but it's huge and it costs millions and millions and millions of dollars. You know, some of the other cities are quite a bit bigger than we are, have a bigger revenue base, et cetera, et cetera. I think you need to keep in mind that Loch Buoy is a fairly young and maybe even an infant town in a lot of ways. It doesn't always mean that we have to have the biggest and the best. And so I guess I'm here tonight to maybe ask you guys to kind of rethink about where you're trying to put your finances. I think there's some things that you could do here in town. The biggest thing I think we all want to do is to help our youth. I think the biggest problem is mental health. And I think children need activities and things to do. I believe that most of those activities should be somewhat sports orientated. So I might give you a few suggestions. Lockwood Park, just down the street years ago, they dug a trench across that. And when they did that, it was a big mistake and it took a ball field away from the kids. If you go out there tonight, you'll see kids trying to play in that field that's been cut in half. You know, we could have a ball field over here at Bella Vista, where the old house used to be. It would be easy to put up a fence, some lights, some bleachers. The cost is really minimal compared to a giant building. I believe the town received some plans for a skate park. Maybe it was nixed because it wasn't in the proper area, but it was a good plan. A skate park could be, you could ask for funding. Believe it or not, Pearl Jam funds skate parks. They did a lot for Indian reservations. It must be something to see a young Indian child riding a skateboard instead of a horse across the sunset, you know, but it gives them a way to express their individualism and to do something, to get out and do some activities. So I'm just asking you to think of something like that, a ballpark, a water feature in the skate park. Those things are a lot less expensive than a giant rec center or a giant library. And that's all I have to say. So maybe try to do something for all the kids. Thank you.
Mark Bush.
So Mayor Pro Tem Mark Bush, I don't really have any prepared remarks or anything like that. I just really wanted to come up and say hello to the trustees, particularly the newer trustees. I think last time I was up here was January, and but just give you a really quick 1 minute, minute and a half, just update on what's going on in Bella Vista in the community. You know, last time I was here, I think was when we wrapped up our water resource credit agreement for the remainder of our filing to there, which was to provide raw water resources for 194 lots that we have fully platted and titled kind of grading permit ready out there. And I think really the next chapter for Bella Vista is continue to work with staff and on the delivery of additional water resources. Our intention is probably in the next 60 days to come in and start working on what would be our next filing for Bella Vista, which is just the project growing to the west. Across the Jamie, I know you know the area pretty well, though in the west, and is you too, Jacqueline, to the west of the West Burlington ditch there. So we're going to be working with staff on some PUD amendments to update kind of our development codes that relates to our PUD. So we're excited about moving forward on that. And there seems to be a little bit of optimism returning to the housing market, particularly for newer builders willing to take on new communities and infrastructure and the like. But I really just wanted to have an opportunity to say hello to everybody and reintroduce myself, particularly to the newer trustees. And if there's any questions, I know I'm here kind of unannounced, but Brian, everybody can call me anytime or email me if you see anything that you're not happy with or that you're happy with, or any general questions really at any time. And that's it. All right, thanks.
Thank you both for your comments tonight. We are now at the point of approving our consent agenda. For the benefit of the audience, the only thing on our consent agenda this evening is the payment approval report in the amount of $362,305.32. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
There a second? We have a motion by trustee Westcott and a second by trustee Bristow. Roll call, please.
Trustee Westcott,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
trustee Tapey,
Yes.
trustee Bristow. Yes. Trustee White,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey.
Yes. The time is now 6:48, and we are going to suspend our regular meeting to move into a public hearing to consider ordinance 2023-681, repealing and readopting Article 1 of Chapter 8 of the Lochbuie Municipal Code concerning vehicles and traffic regulations. Town Attorney Geron.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey. Before the board tonight is ordinance 681. You've already seen this ordinance on introduction on March 7th. Let's talk first a little bit about the substance of the ordinance. What the ordinance does is it adopts by reference the 2020 Model Traffic Code that's published and promulgated by the Colorado Department of Revenue. As we discussed briefly on March 7th, it's important that traffic laws are generally uniform across jurisdictions within the state of Colorado and frankly, across the country, so that we all understand what our obligations are generally at a stop sign, for example. And so in furtherance of that, the Department of Revenue from time to time publishes and updates a model traffic code and puts it out there with a request that municipalities and counties adopt that traffic code as the traffic laws in their jurisdiction. So Lochbuie's been operating under the 2003 version of the model traffic code. And there were a few intervening editions of the traffic code that for technical reasons, the town decided that it didn't make sense for us to adopt. Instead, we have over the period from 2003 till now, basically adopted traffic ordinances from time to time to make sure that our traffic laws were being kept up to date with state law and addressing such new issues that maybe weren't around during 2003, like texting and driving. So that our traffic laws have stayed up to date, but now we feel like it's time that the issues have been resolved greatly in the 2020 version. And so it's time for the town to take action and go ahead and adopt the 2020 model traffic code. You can see that that traffic code, in fact, was further revised in 2021, which is why we don't always jump on these things when they come down from the Department of Revenue, because there's often changes that do happen. And in fact, that happened in this case. But now things have been flushed out for quite a while and we're feeling comfortable. I worked with the police chief, Lieutenant Southers here. She's been conferring with me on this as well. So I appreciate staff's input on that. This ordinance is following a slightly different process. We don't always do public hearings on all of our ordinances, but because you're adopting a code by reference, in other words, the model traffic code's like this thick. And so we don't codify every word in that. Instead, we refer to it in our town code. And when you do that, state law requires that you have it introduced at one meeting, that you hold a public hearing on it, that you provide notice to the public that you're going to hold a public hearing and give them an opportunity to speak on the code that you're adopting. And so that's why we're here tonight at a public hearing. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those. And otherwise, we can open it up to the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Teepee,
No questions?
trustee Bristow,
No questions, thank you.
trustee White,
Nothing, thank you.
trustee Westcott,
I have nothing. Thank you.
trustee Cohen.
No questions, thanks.
Okay, well, we are open for the public hearing. I maybe said that a little early, but we are open for the public hearing. And so if anybody in the audience or in the room would like to speak concerning this ordinance, now would be the time to do so. Going once. All right, so the time is now 6:52 and I will close the public hearing. And we are at a place where we could entertain a motion to approve this ordinance if the board desires.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-681 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Teepee,
Yes.
trustee Westcott,
Yes.
trustee Cohen,
Yes.
trustee Bristow. Yes. Trustee White,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next up, I believe I will be turning it over to, trying to think of your title, Mr. Kennedy, to discuss resolution 2023-16. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. You have before you tonight for your consideration a plat to create parcels of land that will be used for construction of an elevated water storage tank and surrounding park site. As the board's aware, the town is at a point where it needs to expand the capacity of its potable water system. One of the first big steps in that process is to construct an elevated water storage tank. The 2000 Silver Peaks annexation agreement requires the developer to provide land to the town to allow for construction of such a water tank in that subdivision. However, there is not an existing parcel of land that can accommodate the project. So this replat is necessary to reconfigure some of the undeveloped lots in the area to create a site that is the right size and location. The town is contracted with JVA Engineering back in 2017 to begin the design of the site. And then they renewed that contract just in 2022, this past fall, to process. So we do have also Mandy Rasmussen here from JVA tonight. She will be providing an update on the design of the tank site and the tank itself. I do want to emphasize, however, that the only thing under consideration tonight will be the site. The design of the tank and the site plan for the operations are still ongoing, will be completed at a later date. So here's a quick look at the location of the proposed replat area, generally located in the northwest subdivision there between County Road 4 and Ruby Avenue. It's about 8.5 acres and it's comprised of 37 lots. And this is the area that'll be reconfigured. Also wanted to touch briefly on some of the factors that were considered when selecting the site. Didn't just flip a coin and say it's going to go here. There were a lot of things, factors and discussions and analysis that went into the of course, access to existing roads and infrastructure were some of the first things that were considered. Also very important to find a site that's relatively high elevation relative to the other portions of the area, so stored water can flow from the site via gravity. Another factor that staff discovered well into the process, and it was a bit of a surprise, is that there is a 500-foot safety setback that's required between the tank and the power lines along County 4. So that had to be factored in as well. And then finally, we wanted to make sure that there is plenty of open space between the site and then there to the south. And so the spot there with the yellow star indicates the only location really to generate all of these. So based on those factors, these are the 3 tracks that will be created through the REAP. Tract 1, it's sort of a leftover parcel. It's the remaining northern half of a previously platted landscape strip. That'll stay in place and serve as an extension of the south. Tract 2, there in the lighter green, the park site itself, just shy of 5 acres, 4.68 acres, and it's actually big enough to accommodate a full-size regulation soccer field, such a field by the community. So that could be a good amenity for the neighborhood. And of course, tract 3 will serve as the site for the elevated itself. A little over 3 acres in terms of size and location. You can see we've met all the setbacks there. About 850 feet. Power lines to the north, minimum 200 residential homes to the south. So with that, I'll turn it over for a few slides to Mandy from JVA. Provide us with some excellent information on progress of the design of the site. I'll jump back in.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, I'm Mandy Rasmussen with JVA. I'm a senior project manager there. My office is up in Fort Collins, and I was the same project manager involved in 2017. So happy to be back in front of you all and provide an update. So here's where we are with a site plan. You'll see there's a lot more than one elevated storage tank on that site plan. That was our effort to help the town work through, seeing what the ultimate purpose of this site would be and what all, we could do with those 3 acres. Both make sure that's enough for the purpose of a storage tank, but also how it would, how it would work with elevations and things if a soccer field was next to it. So this is what we've ended up with is space for 2 water storage tanks. It's based on the 2017 Water Master Plan. I know you'll be updating the Water Master Plan this year. And so the contents of this site might change, but it's nice to see that you can fit 2 million-gallon storage tanks as well as a possible water treatment facility or other town use building. So I think that one more note here, we show on this, the south tank would be the first one built. And we talked internally that, I'm an engineer, that made the most sense to me, but that may not make sense to the town and the site overall. So that's definitely open to discussion of which tank would be the first one built. Yeah.
Okay.
So now it's the same view of the two storage tanks in the future water treatment building or other use building. But zoomed out a little bit, so now you can see Ruby Avenue there on the south. And this just shows kind of the expected setbacks from the tanks to those existing homes. You know, you can imagine there's also, just as an engineer, there's a scenario where you'd need to drain the tank for maintenance, or if there was an overflow of some water. And so that'll be a major part of our design moving forward is, you know, where does that water go? Back in 2017, we established it would go into the storm system that's already built in Ruby Avenue. And so our task moving forward will be how that looks going from the tanks to Ruby Avenue and coordinating with those park facilities and others. So there's more work to do. This is a monumentous day of securing the site for the town. This is what stopped us in 2017 of not being able to get that site. So we're looking forward to having this decision tonight and move forward with our design.
The only thing I would add is that we've shown the two setbacks for two planned tanks. The lot line itself is 200 feet from the nearest home. We have a setback of 200 feet from the southernmost lot line, 250 feet from the southern tank or so.
And then this is just a chance to see, you know, what the tank will look like. It'll be very similar to the one that was just built in Brighton that you can actually see from this tank site. The outside, it's a concrete pedestal and then a steel up top. And you can see the water's only in that steel tank at the top and the whole concrete column is open on the inside. So that'll be a big part of our design is what we choose to include on the inside. You know, we'll at least have valves and piping, but there is opportunity to have different floors in there.
And it's supposed to be 150 some odd feet tall.
Yeah, so it's about 40 feet of water and then the pedestal is 100 feet. And that's so that house that's closest will have at least at the very minimum 40 PSI pressure at their house.
Could have office space, 5 floors, potentially 20-foot ceiling. If anyone were so inclined.
And if I'll point out, if you really squint, you can see there's a van driving into the bottom, just to give you an idea of scale. So it is a pretty big structure. But that's what we're proposing.
Good. So much, Mandy, for coming. Got a couple more slides to wrap up, and we can open up for questions. In terms of compliance, the annexation agreement governs the process. The agreement requires staff to confirm that the replat document contains all the relevant information. Replat's been distributed to all the applicable utilities and outside for review. Board does give final approval, and that's why we're here tonight. No public hearing is required. No public notice is required. However, did want to point out that staff did provide a courtesy notice to all the homeowners to the south. And there will be more public outreach opportunities that will occur before the tank construction. So we have that to look to. So in conclusion, just wanted to reiterate a few points. First, the town does need the site to expand its infrastructure and needs to do it as soon as possible. Developer has been great to work with. They've worked with staff to process all the replat documents. Go on approval. Replat has been processed appropriately and funds are budgeted to compensate the developer for so for all of these, staff does recommend that the board provide approval, so design construction continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy. Does any board member have questions or comments? Trustee Bristow.
Thank you. Hi, Chris. I was just curious, the Brighton water tanks, they have that football field next to it, or I think the football field kind of happened at the same time, I think. But have they had any like, you know, drawbacks or have any like issues with the water tanks being so close to the fields or anything like that?
That is a great question. We have not any feedback that would indicate there was. I think it's a pretty common occurrence to play fields around these water tanks, not just in Brighton, but in other. There are any sort of issue, drawbacks to the way.
Thank you. And then just one more question. You reached out to the homeowners within like 200 feet of the tank site. Did they have like a positive feedback on that, or was it just kind of, oh, well?
We actually didn't hear anything back, buddy, that we said.
And that courtesy notice, just to add to that, did tell them that you all would be considering this tonight and invited them to attend, so.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Tapie.
Yes. So as a resident of Silver Peaks, I have attended a few HOA meetings with the developer of Silver Peaks. And she has hinted, no, she has outright said that Himalaya would not be paved until like Silver Peaks was built out. That road is problematic because it is dirt. And we have a lot of issues already with people kind of misusing the road and a lot of dirt and a lot of concern, dust and stuff all the time. Are there any plans to push that forward a little bit with this?
The southern half of Himalaya is actually under design as we could start being constructed as early as
The southern portion?
the southern portion all the way up to the other portion, the northern portion, the developers of Silver Peaks are on the hook to do that. I don't remember exactly when the triggers are in the annexation agreement, but when they go in to replat the northern half of Silver Peak, we'll have to negotiate
Okay,
completion of that.
well, that's really good news. Thank you.
But at least the southern portion, it's being driven by development west. Right.
Oh, yeah.
On the hook to construct. I don't remember exactly how long up to.
Okay.
And then
Cool. Thank you so much.
Any other trustees? Trustee Cohen.
The question I have is in terms of the setback, what kind of, once the water tower is built, what kind of noise is associated with that site? Those homeowners that are 250 feet away.
Oh, now I see the line. So the, sorry. The water tank itself, there's no pumps or generators. It's a very passive system where the pumps at the Silver Peaks booster station that's down south of the school, those will pump and were designed to fill this tank. So the moving parts will be there. And then fill this tank, and then just as people use water, the water level will adjust. So there's, no generator outside of the tank, no equipment. I think if there was noise, it would be if there was a treatment plant associated with that other future building, and that would be, mitigated and coordinated and brought before you at that time. Good question.
Trustee White.
Thank you. I have a question just about the land use, that little lot like the field. Love Larry being here and that he mentioned getting a soccer field, and I love that you jumped in with, hey, there's a plot available. So my question is, how do we as a board of trustees ensure that that happens. I would have a hard time approving this because it's gonna make people mad. I live in this neighborhood as well. When we moved in here, this was not planned. That was not supposed to be there. That is gonna be ugly. It's gonna be obnoxious. People aren't gonna like it. It's gonna be more traffic. People, I mean, the town people are gonna be coming in. Not to mention that I have strong feelings about DR Horton as a developer, and I don't think they're a good neighbor. I do not believe that they have treated that lot there with care as though they lived in our community. It's belittled with trash and leftover construction debris for 3 years that I'm aware of. I have photographic evidence that I've submitted to the town many a times to the code enforcement. And it has yet to be dealt with. So I have a hard time just saying, sure, let's let them do this, and we'll just hope in good faith that they provide our kids with something. I think we need to do our due diligence and make sure that we have it in writing, that that's going to be used for a field if everyone here feels that's appropriate, or we need to have that discussion, I feel like, before we could say, sure, go ahead and do that, and we'll see what happens with plot number 2 on your map there. So.
Well,
Thank you, trustee White. I appreciate those comments. I just want to let the board know that the water tank dedication, land for water tank dedication is a requirement since 2000 when the annexation agreement was adopted. So there was always contemplation that there would be a water tank built in the Silver Peaks area. And in fact, the land price was set in the year 2000 when the annexation agreement was approved too. We're paying what, $35,000 an acre or something. Pretty good deal in the year 2023. So that said, all those points are valid, and the ultimate build out of that park area that surrounds this 3-acre site, this land is being dedicated to the town. So the board will be the one to decide. And that's frankly a matter of a legislative decision on your part, whether or not you want to come up with the funding to pay for something like that and to manage it. And so ultimately the power as to whether or not a recreational amenity ends up happening on that land is in the purview of this Board of Trustees. That answer your question?
and I would just add that we've been working closely with the developers and the builder DR Horton, and they've committed. I've seen preliminary designs for them. They've committed to park that location, space for a ball field. And this board will approve all of their ball field opportunities.
Okay, and I hear you saying that we would be responsible for that expense, and this is my question. With everything I've sent you, Brian, I'm wondering, where do we have leverage to say you've been in violation of our town codes for 3 years? How can we get them to make some type of commitment to what we're gonna do with that land? I mean, I'm just not comfortable with this. So I'm really needing to know how to move forward with.
So if I may, Brian, just for a second, so I appreciate those comments as well. And I understand that you have some frustration with just the maintenance of the property out there. And I think that we need to address that problem. And so I know Brian's been trying to talk with you this evening, get a little more specifics on that location, like where these issues are and what particularly is happening. We do have some code provisions and we can talk about whether or not they're applicable to that fact scenario. But the role of the board tonight is really just to say, let's take those 37 currently platted lots and combine them into 3 large parcels. So this water storage tank that the town needs to make sure everybody has adequate water pressure in town actually has land on which we can build it. And so we need to make sure, because this is one of those nights where you're wearing your quasi judicial hat. I know we've all talked about that, where what's relevant is whether or not the land use applicant has met the necessary standards and criteria for the request that they're making of you. And so the annexation agreement already has in place all these criteria that are technical in nature and that staff has looked at along with engineering consultants and with traffic consultants to make sure that this plat that's coming before you meets the technical requirements for the plat, and has determined that in fact that they do. And so unless you have a concern specifically with a technical requirement of the plat, issues of whether or not the park's going to be built and whether the amenity is adequate are all things that we can discuss in the future, but it wouldn't be appropriate for those to color your decision-making tonight. Tonight, your decision-making is really one of, as was said in the staff report, frankly, somewhat ministerial approval, because when the annexation agreement was signed in the year 2000, it said that replats are really administrative in nature in one place, and then it says in another place, but then you send it to the board for approval. I will tell you that this is different than your typical replat. So if somebody comes into town, for instance, with a fresh piece of land that isn't subject to an annexation agreement, the replat process is a much more public process because that's what our land development code generally requires. But as you all know, and I know I'm a broken record on this, Silver Peaks has different rules. And the rules are set forth in that 23-year-old annexation agreement, and we are contractually bound to those, so.
Thank you so much. Trustee Westcott, did you have anything?
I'm sure that as we get closer to design and build out, I'll have more questions, but I don't have anything about the replat.
And the only thing I wanted to say is thank you both for a really good presentation and clear communication about what is needed from the board at this point in time. Yes, Trustee Tapie.
I just want to make sure I understand this. This is, I mean, it's like the best location for this water tower in the town of Lockwood.
I would say it's been determined that this is the best location within the Silver Peaks neighborhood.
I would entertain a motion.
So the motion is related to the resolution 2023-16 that's in your packet. So in order to approve it, you would approve that resolution if that's what the board's inclined to do.
I move to approve resolution number 2023-16, approving Silver Peaks filing number 1, 4th Amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bristow? Yes. Trustee Tapie?
Yes.
Trustee Cohen?
Yes.
Trustee White?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey?
Yes,
Trustee Westcott?
Yes.
and the motion carries. Staff reports. I understand that Ms. Rademacher is ill tonight, so Mr. McBroom?
We're happy to answer any questions you might have about Ms. Rademacher's staff report. She is thorough as always, but if you have questions, please let me know. And with her help, we will get those answered. Likewise, Chief McCoy is on vacation. So same thing, if you have questions for Chief McCoy, please send them my way and we will be sure to get them answered.
Thank you, Mr. McBroom. Mr. Ramey, good to see you, sir.
No, it does. You know, nobody at the hockey game can hear me anyway, so. Our monthly report for March, as you can see from the chart, Brighton continues, their flow continues to go up. Plant's running good. You can see where we're catching up on our biosolids pressing when we had to shut the machine down to fix it. That's a new high, 1,074 tons of biosolids in a month. That's, that's a million pounds. So if you put that into perspective, that's a lot of poo. So basically down at the wastewater plant, all we did was run that press and do maintenance and clean. We had a lot of snow, a lot of mud. So you continually just, walk in a room, then clean it. Water system, we did about 1.5 million less in March of 2023 than we did of 2022. A lot of that is moisture still retaining, not as many people, definitely no construction. There was some construction last year too. So ROs are running good. Any questions? If anybody still wanted to ever have a tour, I'd wait till it's dry down at the wastewater plant. That's for sure. And as far as our capital projects, we're on top of them. We've got equipment on order. I kind of a side note, we ordered the generator down at the wastewater plant. When power goes out, there is a switch. It's called an automatic transfer switch, where this senses the incoming power from United Power. If it goes off, then it starts the generator, and then it switches from utility power to generator power. And that thing has been out since November 2020. And we have still continued to get, and you can only buy it from one company. And we continue to get, like, every time it's like, well, it'll be here in 30 days. It'll be here in 90 days. So if we do, we don't lose power that much, but when we do, one of us goes out and we'll go out with an electrician and do a transfer. So we got plenty of attenuation, meaning there's a lot of storage in the main sewer line that goes down to the wastewater plant. So we don't worry about it too much. And I have guys that live 5 miles from here. So other than that, if you got any questions, let me know. Appreciate seeing everybody.
I just have a comment. I don't know if you're aware, but the governor signed the bill that's been flowing to our state legislature that now to sell those flushable wipes in our state, they have
That's
to be
fine.
labeled as not flushable. No.
Oh, you won't believe how many pumps we've had to rebuild, how many mixers we've had to rebuild. Even things like floss. Floss is a lot stronger than you think it is when you wrap it around a shaft of a motor that's turning 3,700 RPMs. I mean, it can do some serious damage. And, you know, and it also collects other debris. So it's not like you're working on something clean while you're doing it too. So I hope people understand that, you know, put it in the garbage. Keep it out, you know, the only things that, what does it say at the St. Vrain Sand District? You can't flush anything, including your hopes and dreams. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Larman, Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, trustees, and kind of to Wayne's point, we have 2 3-yard dumpsters and 1 2-yard dumpster that serviced weekly of just debris that is screened out before the treatment process down at the treatment plant. So it is quite a bit of stuff that gets flushed down the drain. But to my report, wanted to touch on a few items. Fleet, this is kind of my big campaign with you guys. Our loader, after it was down for several weeks earlier this winter, is down again with yet another major repair. This puts this unit out of service for 11 weeks this year, or 73% of the year to date, which really kind of handicaps us on trying to do any large projects in-house. We have to rely on contract help more than I would like to, just because we can't rely on our equipment. Thought I was going to have a positive note on the fleet with the F600. It is finally en route to Greeley. However, I heard from our upfitter that we will probably not receive all of our snow equipment until December. So maybe we'll plow with it this calendar year, but at least we should be able to get it in our fleet and help us in that regard. I'm sure most of you have noticed we've had crack sealing and mastic sealing in full effect around town. I anticipate that to be wrapped up by the end of this week. We managed to get through our top 4 priority areas this year and actually started work in the old part of town. So that'll be where we pick up next year and then progressively work west through town. This work is getting us prepared for surface treatments on the road, slurry seal, chip seal, those type of processes, which is all part of preventative maintenance. Not much different than changing the oil in your car. Roads are a wearable and depreciable asset, and we have to maintain them to keep them functional. So we're working on that. We have currently a RFP for striping and pavement markings out on the market that'll close next Monday. And I hope to have a proposal to the board at the May 2nd board meeting to award that work. I'm also working on a street sweeping RFP to get some regular street sweeping done in town because we don't have a street sweeper in our fleet. And a little bit of construction updates. I'm sure everyone is well aware also of the widening on County Road 2 is in full effect. That south side project is currently on schedule, and so far the community has not really told us that they're having any problems with the traffic control. I wanted to ask the board if you had any observations or heard anything as to how the traffic control is working for your commutes. I know a significant amount of you live up in that area. That is, we've had a lot of coordination with the city of Brighton on that because that is technically a city of Brighton project. But they also have the same concerns that our town does and our staff does in maintaining the traffic flow. We all can appreciate the issues that the road being closed for the Spear Canal project created, and we are sensitive to that and doing everything we can to maintain traffic throughout the project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any, oh, sorry, I had one more. I forgot to highlight it before I came down. CoCal Landscape Company has agreed to partner with the town in developing a water conservation garden at the farmhouse location at Bella Vista. They're going to be providing all design services for us for that project, and then we're going to figure out construction and all of that. It might be a phased approach, but we are taking steps in developing that parcel. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Trustee White.
Thank you. I will say I make that commute every day. It's been great. I had no traffic complaints. The only thing I will say, me being me, might be for both the Chris's, I'm not sure, is the debris going into, they're already full from sand. And as we're getting into our spring showers here, we need to just make sure that our street side of the street drains. I would just like to bring that to everyone's attention, but traffic's been great. Haven't been late coming or going yet. So thank you.
We are aware, and there are BMPs in place. With the spring weather and everything drying out and the high winds we've had, I probably need to get after the contractors in the city of Brighton to do the same for their development community to service those, but thank you.
Trustee Westcott.
I would just add that I was really worried about the construction and delays to my commute, but as Trustee White said, it's been great. The one day where the road was closed went by really fast, and even then it wasn't that really significant. On my drive here, though, I noticed that the barriers blocking the side of the street that they're working on the south side have blown over in the high wind. So I don't know if we need to put some sandbags on that, just alerting you.
Okay, I'll take a look at it on my way back home tonight and call whoever I need to make sure those get serviced.
Yes, I live in Berkshire, so like pretty much just north of where they're doing all that construction. And even though I haven't had any like issues driving through the construction zone, I have seen an increase in people bypassing County Road 2, going down Sunrise through the new Silver Peaks neighborhood. So I have seen increase in traffic and increase in traffic, there's speeders and, you know, non-law abiding citizens. So I just wanted to drop that. And then
Thank you. I'll reach out to the contractor and see if we can't get a local traffic only sign or whatever the appropriate signage would be there at Homestead.
yeah, like Homestead Sunrise, yeah.
Okay.
And then another, what is like water conservation garden? What is that?
So what that is going to be is it's going to be a place where we will have a display of native and water-wise plants that people can go walk through and get ideas for either redoing their landscaping or adding, plants and grass species, maybe even trees. We're still not quite to that process yet. But they'll have a significantly less demand for water.
Great, that's awesome. Thank you.
And the only thing I wanted to ask was, would there be some cleanup sooner rather than later from the crack ceiling and mastic ceiling? Because the roads are real dirty.
That's kind of what accelerated the street sweeping RFP in my process is this was kind of my first experience with transverse cracks that are as big as what we have here in town. So I kind of underestimated the amount of debris that would be generated from that. So it's definitely on my radar, and as soon as we can get a contract in place, that'll be cleaned up.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Kennedy, Community Development.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You have a copy of my report. Did want to highlight a couple of things as well. Just a quick update on the comprehensive plan project. The RFP that I reported on before for a consultant to do the work closed back at the end of March. We got 2 qualified firms that submitted proposals, and we'll be conducting interviews with those firms tomorrow. And our goal is to select one of them as soon as possible and get that project underway. So I'll continue to provide updates to the board as that moves forward. Also wanted to let the board know, ironically, that Mr. Mark Bush, the developer of Blue Lakes subdivision, has also expressed interest in doing another residential development on the 39-acre Albrandt property immediately to the east of County Road 37. We're very preliminary in that process, and so the exact number of proposed homes is not yet known, but we'll continue to work with Mr. Bush provide more information as available. We're actually later this week. We will know more soon on that property. And then finally wanted to mention that the owners of the Gawa Greenhouse at the southeast corner of County Road 37 and County Road 4 will be adding a retail component. So they've got plans to sell plants and supplies and kind of thing, be it a nursery, a retail nursery, or a home depot, perhaps higher quality though. They're in the process of acquiring a seasonal permit through Weld County. They've also expressed interest in annexing into Lock Buoy, eventually connecting to town water and sewer. So we're in constant communication with them, and we'll continue to work with them. Try and get them annexed into the community. That as well. Continue to working on other things. Don't have as much information on some of these. Trying to get our electronic mapping platform up and running. So we'll be looking at some consultants to help us pull some databases together and connect some of the dots on the technical side there that we don't have the expertise to do in-house. Also working on our impact fee study with Raptelis. Very little information on some of these projects. We'll continue. Wanted to let you know that we're working on coming down the pipe.
Thank you very much. Anybody with questions or comments? All right, Town Clerk. Is it still Meyer Court or is your name going to change?
It will change, but I haven't done anything yet.
All
So
right.
eventually it'll be Bowen, but maybe probably not for a while. So I just have a quick update to my report over the weekend since we put Aquahawk out to the residents. We now have up to 11 users, so we're headed in the right direction. But if anyone has any questions, happy to answer.
Does that 11 include the board?
Yes, and me. So, but it'll be marketed much more next month. So we're hoping after that we'll get more.
Thank you so much. Ms. Thomas, Human Resources.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and trustees. Before you, you have the Human Resources Report. And a couple things I would like to highlight. We have a month that we still fully staffed with our police department, which is great. We celebrate every month. I'm going to come in and say, yeah, second month, third month, we're going to celebrate because that's a huge relief for me. And other things I would like to highlight before you have the key cards I put in each one of your desks. See it there, the white ones? That is, so starting next board meeting, you are welcome to come the back door and park in the back parking lot. We're working with our staff, so they're aware that we're gonna park in the front, and then so you guys have enough room to park in the back. Or we might park in the side where Public Works parks. It's pretty easy. You just go and tap it right there and I'll just open the door. So whenever you feel like you wanna come and visit us or just to access the building, now you're free to do that. And also I think most of you received your signature email for your Outlook email. And so I saw that a lot of you were able to complete that. If you need assistance, if you have a hard time making that happen, let me know and I'll be happy to help. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
I'm sorry, did you say that staff is gonna have to park in a different place so that we can park in the back?
Yes.
I'm okay parking in the front. I don't need staff to relocate for me.
We will make- It's
You guys are
not-
here all day.
It's not an imposition for staff. The second meeting of the month, when the department heads stay, we just need to shuffle a little bit. To the first meeting of the month, by the time you arrive for the board meeting, most of the staff in the back here will have left already. But there are good reasons for you to park in the back and enter through the secured access. So don't be concerned. They will be minor adjustments for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. McBroom.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey. You're doing a wonderful job, by the way. It is my pleasure as my report tonight to provide a summary of our first quarter results. As promised earlier in the year, I've committed to coming to you quarterly and sharing higher level results, sharing trends that we're noticing at the staff level that might be of interest to the board. So I will assume you've had a chance to look through the slides already. I'll walk through them quickly and then happy to answer any questions you might have. In any strategic plan, it's critical that we begin with the direction set by the board. The board spent a lot of time last summer at the front end of the budget process, setting high-level direction for us throughout the year. These first two slides summarize those high-level goals. Then when the budget was adopted later in the fall, we've provided resources in the budget to accomplish work across all of these board goals. So those are a constant focus for us, and our commitment is to operationalize those goals and advance work in those areas in ways that are measurable, where we can measure results that we're making and demonstrate that we're making progress. Along with those high-level goals, though, most of our resources are actually dedicated to delivering service day in and day out here in the town. Most of our budget and most of our staff time is dedicated to daily service delivery. Through the first quarter, we continue to have very high standards for the services that we provide day in and day out. It'll be no surprise to you that our costs for providing services are increasing, materials we need, fuel, equipment, it's all getting more expensive as it is for everybody. We are noticing that service delivery so far this year is either at or above 2022 levels. Believe it or not, even with a soft economy, development activity is very strong in town. Chris and Sonia are very busy meeting with prospective developers that are anticipating growth in the town after this current softness in the economy moves along. Likewise, the police department, with more homes being built in the community, police department calls for service are up. As Jasmine noted, we are fully staffed in the police department. Two of our newer officers are still in field training. So it'll be a matter of a month or two before those officers emerge from field training and are fully operational in handling shift work. Also, we are changing our approach to code enforcement this year, which we are confident will give us higher results. Capital projects, though they receive a lot of focus, are not the biggest part of our budget. Again, service delivery is, but these capital projects are all very important. The Greenway Trail will start construction this summer. Final stages of design are being wrapped up right now. You heard a lot tonight about the elevated water storage tank. The bridge deck on County Road 4 that we've chatted with you about previously is in design right now and should be under construction later this year. We have also begun putting together a request for proposals to solicit engineering services to begin the design of the wastewater treatment plant expansion. That'll be a sizable contract that would come before the board for approval. That's probably 2 months from now when we would have received proposals back, and we would be back in front of you to talk through that project. You've also heard tonight about the widening of County Road 2. We are also, the last item on the list, we are working on interim intersection improvements at County Road 2 and I-76. With the imminent development, extensive development on the east side of the highway, the developers in that area have already approached the state about more significant improvements to the interchange at County Road 2. The signalization project that the town had contemplated a few years ago is no longer feasible. What we are able to do, though, with CDOT's help, is install stop signs on the ramps on the east side of the interstate to help provide for less traffic backup on that exit ramp for town residents. We think that will help tremendously and get us through the next 2 or 3 years until we can start seeing more significant improvements to the interchange. So that work will happen soon.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious for the stop signs, will there also be one coming off of that frontage road? Because that's the biggest concern, I think I remember when Dave was here, we were always talking about that, when you're on that frontage road trying to come, towards town to take that left, you can't see up that hill. So when you're getting to that off ramp, does that make sense?
So the stop signs will be at the off ramps, but it will provide gaps in the traffic, making it easier to make turning movements from the frontage road on to County Road 2, if that makes sense.
So, okay.
So County Road 2 traffic won't be required to stop at the frontage road, just at the on-ramp and off-ramp at I-76. Another category of work for us is growth management. It not only includes the work that community development does, but other things related to facilitating positive growth in the town. So I've listed a number of updates here. Although we divide things by department a lot of times based on the nature of the work, there are some themes that tie it all together, and growth management is one of them. There's a number of things that we're doing across the organization that are all geared towards guiding and managing positive growth here in the town. Community engagement has been a big priority of the town board since I began working for the town. The town created a communication strategic plan last fall. There's important work built into the 2023 budget regarding community engagement, and we're making good progress. The comprehensive plan update itself will involve a great deal of citizen input. We've already started planning for the 50th anniversary celebration next year. I will be coming back to you next month to talk further about next steps with home rule. I know that's something still of great interest to the board. And in terms of specific items within the communication strategic plan, we're making good progress on a number of those fronts. And again, resources were provided in the 23 budget for us to do that work. Regarding that, community engagement is something we can measure. So it's important if we're investing time and effort that we're seeing results. And that's clear in the information here that residents are starting to engage more and pay more attention to the communication that the town shares with them. So that's very positive. Some key overall trends, residential construction has been a little higher than we thought it would be through the first quarter. That's an interesting stat for us, with interest rates being a fair amount higher than they were a year or two ago. We're seeing more home construction than we thought we would through the first quarter. Our revenue is trending steady. It's at or above across all the different categories what we projected for this point in the year. That's certainly important for us. Again, development activity has been strong, stronger than we expected. It's clear that growth is coming to Lock Buoy and the development community is filling that development pipeline. So when interest rates do come back down, I expect we'll see a lot of construction here in town. We are continuing to have steady discussions with the two big developers that are interested in doing big projects on the east side of I-76. I think it's very likely we'll see an annexation application later this year. We've been, I mentioned their community recognition is increasing. We are being asked more often than we were even when I first got here. What are we doing here in Lock Buoy? Other communities are curious about the things that we're doing here in town. And I think that's a positive sign that we're on the right track and we're on the front edge of doing innovative things here in town and responding positively to the challenges that we're facing. The police department provided some information that narcotics calls in town are generally increasing, but methamphetamine and fentanyl calls are down in Q1. As you know, fentanyl and methamphetamine are serious societal problems. So although our narcotics calls are increasing in those two categories, they've actually gone down a little bit. You've also been hearing a lot about car thefts across the region. We've noticed a bit of an increase here in town as well. So this last slide is our effort to look at the stuff that we're looking at all the time and pull out of it things that might be of interest to you and to the community. So it was fun to put that together. Please pass along any feedback you had either tonight or after tonight. I'll be back mid-year with some updates then, but happy to modify this and tweak it in ways that make it useful to you.
Thank you, Mr. McBroom. Anybody with questions or comments? Trustee Bristow.
Hello, I have just a quick question. You stated on one of your slides that the County Road 2 widening will be complete the winter of 2024, and that includes both the north and south section, correct?
That's our best update right now. And staff, I will tell you, didn't even want me to be this specific, but I think that's a reasonable estimate based on all that we know.
Thank you, Brian.
I would just say, this was a great update. I like the format. Thank you to staff for all of your hard work to make all of those things happen.
I would echo Trustee Cohen's sentiments as well. Mayor and trustee comments. Trustee Westcott.
Awesome. Okay, I actually have something I want to read tonight. It's the first time I'm going to do this. At our last board meeting, we received information about retail marijuana stores. During the meeting, I asked for information regarding the impacts to children of the legalization of marijuana in Colorado. As I didn't feel my question was really answered, I went home and did some research. So I'd like to share with you some of what I found out about this important question. According to a 2018 Journal of Adolescent Health article produced by doctors at Colorado's University and Children's Hospital, quote, despite national survey data suggesting no appreciable difference in adolescent marijuana use, our data demonstrate a significant increase in adolescent marijuana-associated emergency department and urgent care visits in Colorado. An article in the Canadian Medical Association Open Access Journal gives numbers. Rates of cannabis-related emergency department visits by youth aged 10 to 24 years increased almost fivefold from 2003 to 2017, with increases in visit severity and hospital admissions. While there have been many studies reporting that the use of marijuana among adolescents has not increased since legalization, including in the Colorado Children's Health Report published yearly, there is some alarming data out there if you look. For example, a May 2022 article from the Columbia School of Public Health relates, in 2020, 35% of high school seniors and as many as 44% of college students reported using marijuana in the past year. Prevalence increased across grades, with the largest burden among high school seniors, for whom past 30-day prevalence almost tripled from 5% in 2017 to 14% in 2019. The one-year increase in this grade from 2018 to 2019 is the second largest one-year increase in any type of substance use prevalence ever tracked by Monitoring the Future. And adolescent marijuana use can be harmful to the developing brain. An article in the Journal of Preventive Medicine published in March 2023, researchers in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington State warn early onset, frequent, heavy, or prolonged cannabis use during adolescence is associated with difficulties with academic performance and attainment, social relationships, depression, suicidal thoughts and behaviors, substance use disorder, and poorer adult functioning. The article continues, although the use of non-medical cannabis remains illegal for individuals aged under 21 years in all states, legalization of adult use may lead to higher rates of more frequent or heavier cannabis use among adolescents through increased availability, removal of legal penalties, increasing potency, decreased perceptions of harm, and increased perceptions of acceptability. Following our last board meeting, I also spoke with both our high school SRO and the principal at Weld Central High School about their opinion on allowing retail sales in Lochbuie. While both individuals stressed that they were not experts and had no opinion on a municipal issue, they brought up certain concerns that I think are worth mentioning. First, students bringing drugs to school or arriving to school high is an issue that administrators and police must address. These investigations are both time-intensive and stressful for the school environment. Any increase in the number of these incidents during the school year means that administrators are spending time fighting drug use rather than concentrating on the business of schools. The SRO officer also made me aware that due to the higher concentration of THC levels in marijuana products, some at close to 100%, today's cannabis products are making some teenagers highly dependent and dangerously ill. She spoke about her discovery that marijuana use on the adolescent brain can actually lead to psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia. I looked that up when I got home and found an article in the Journal of American Medical Association Psychiatry that reports that longitudinal investigations show a consistent association between adolescent cannabis use and psychosis. Cannabis use is considered a preventable risk factor for psychosis. The very next day, I was witness to an incident where a student was greening because she had taken a dab from a friend and was having an adverse reaction. An assistant principal, the dean of students, the school nurse, and the SRO luckily were available to intervene. There was no harm. But again, the situation required the intervention of at least 4 adults in the building, taking them away from their educational responsibilities for much of the afternoon. Finally, while dispensaries have adopted procedures that make it very unlikely that underage customers will be able to purchase marijuana products, that does not prevent access once they are out of the dispensary. Research also suggests that in states where marijuana has been legalized, there is increased usage among adults, which means that there is more product in homes, which means increased access for children and youth. Clearly, there are public health concerns related to adolescent use that must be considered before moving forward on this issue. I'm not an expert on this issue. I fully concede that. As a result, I would ask that we provide that as a board, we be provided with the public health information by an expert in a presentation similar to what we saw at our last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Westcott. Trustee Cohen?
Thank you for that information. The only, for me, for the CML update, Senate Bill 213, which is the infamous land use bill, is still sort of making its way through things. It has not been approved or signed or anything yet, so we're still waiting to see. There's a CML presentation on Thursday that I'm going to go to that maybe will provide some updates. So maybe next time I'll come with an update. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee White?
Thank you. I've got to talk about what Trustee Westcott just said regards to the marijuana sales. I just want to say that all of that information is health information. That didn't tell us anything about the legality in those municipalities or where those people are coming into those emergency rooms, where they received their products from. So it's really not relevant. Also, that the responsibility is not for us as a town. We don't get to govern what happens inside people's houses. We don't get to govern who buys these products and if they allow their children access to them. That's an overreach of government. That's not what we're here to do. The question on hand is if we want to allow the sales within the town. The products are already here. They're already inside these town limits. They're already in Hudson. They're already in Kingsburg. They're already in all these places. And I would also like to note that after the last meeting that we had here, I stood right here in this doorway and our own chief of police said he had no worry and saw no extra added work potentially to the police department based out of us solely allowing sales within town. So when we're talking about experts and opinions and safety, maybe we should have the chief himself say something to the board. But I 100% don't feel like we need any more education about it not being safe. We know the risks of these drugs. We know that they're accessible. We know that they're not safe for children. I don't think anybody's saying that they are. Our question is solely, should we allow the sales and reap the benefits that come with allowing those sales within town? And do we feel that those sales and those benefits are going to outweigh any potential side effects or concerns about accessibility? But again, it's already here. So we're not here to make health decisions. We're not here to decide if our children are in danger inside their homes based off of what their parents purchased. That's not what we're here to do as a board.
Trustee JP.
Questions? Thank you.
Trustee Bristow.
Yes, in regards to Senate Bill 23-213, Dr. Cog had not really an emergency meeting, but an urgent meeting the day after our last town meeting discussing this bill. The majority of the Dr. Cog directors showed opposition to it, not knowing necessarily where the town stood on it. I decided, not to vote either way. Just because I was unsure. They voted opposition with potential amendments, and I guess those amendments came through, but so based on like CML's position on the SB 213 and Dr. Cog's position on the SB 213, I think the town should go on record with opposition against SB 213. And I move to direct the town administrator on behalf of the town board to write a letter to Colorado's governor stating our opposition to SB 213.
Trustee Bristow has raised a motion before this board. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just a bit of extra context, as trustee Bristow has indicated, we're a member of CML. CML is actively opposing Senate Bill 213. However, a number of communities, in addition to being members of CML and supporting CML's opposition, a number of communities have made their own public statements in opposition to Senate Bill 213. So if you were to support trustee Bristow's motion, I think you'd be in good company. A number of communities, I've seen a number of sample letters and resolutions out there. I don't know that it turns the tide on this issue, but it is an action you can take to very clearly state your position regarding Senate Bill 213.
Any further discussion?
So I would just say I certainly support us opposing as a town, though I would say that I think all testimony and proceedings closed on this bill today. So I don't know, to your point, how much it will matter. There were some things you could have done that CML sent out, I think in the links that Brian sent out, that you could go as a trustee and sign the petition, or you could also send a letter yourself. I don't think there's anything stopping us from still doing it, but to Brian's point, I don't know how much difference it's going to make at this point. So.
Okay, thank you. Well, we do have a proper motion and second before the board, so may we call for a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bristow,
Yes.
trustee Tapey,
Yes.
Trustee Cohen,
Yes.
trustee White,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeffrey,
Yes,
trustee Westcott.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Thank you both for your work on CML and Dr. Cog in bringing that to the board tonight for consideration. I think you all have had an opportunity to share your trustee comments. I don't have anything specific tonight. I do want to say that I've seen things on social media about a lot of people attending our library board meeting, which is tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. It is an open meeting. People are welcome to attend. We don't have a space nice like this, so I think it's going to be crowded, but that's okay. And I think the more we can get the Lock Buoy voice over there, the better it is to keep things moving forward for our community. So having said that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.